In today's video, we're going to walk you through the process of adding negatives to your Google Ads campaign before it goes live to minimize the amount of irrelevant traffic that you're going to receive and help reduce the amount of budget that'll be wasted early on. And usually all of the attention is placed on targeting the right keywords at the very beginning, but it's also equally important to make sure that you have the right negatives excluded so that you're not appearing for these search terms inside your search terms report. And what we're going to do inside this video is make a shared negative keyword list. So what we can do then is we have a list of negatives that's going to be added to the campaign level at the very beginning, and we're not going to need to have to add them as negatives after they've already appeared in our search terms and have been getting us clicks that haven't been converting. So now what we have here is a list of words or phrases that we could potentially add as negatives to our campaign before it even goes live. And a lot of these, depending on the service you offer especially, are examples of words that you'd never want to appear for under any scenario. And so what you want to do in advance is make a list of all of the irrelevant words that you know you wouldn't want to appear for under any scenario, and also a list of all your competitors as well, because you don't want to be appearing for competitor searches. Making a list of all of these like this, and what we're going to do then is add these to a Google Ads negative keyword list and add that list to the campaign that we're making before it goes live. And you can see here from all of these words or phrases that they're all low intent, and a lot of these are informational but not commercial, meaning that most of these words here indicating that they're asking questions to do with what you offer, but don't indicate that they're actually looking to buy what you offer. So things like how to especially are very informational and indicate DIY, that they might want to do the job themselves, which we don't want. Now, things like price and cost can vary in certain scenarios. You might want to appear for cost-based searches, but if you really want to be as strict as possible from the very beginning, then those are also things you can exclude. But as a service-based business, for example, things like suppliers, what is cheapest, discount, low cost, low price, course, courses, how, can, should, could, would, DIY, cheap, average is one as well, because people often look up what is the average cost of this service. So it's very informational but not commercial. Yard and merchant as well, for example, are things that I like to add as negatives too, because in a lot of trades, for example, they indicate that the person is looking to buy the materials. So these are examples of low intent words that can be added to our campaign in advance of going live. And so what we can do with these keywords then that we're going to add as negatives in advance is come over here to tools on the left hand side of our Google Ads account and go to shared library and then go to exclusion lists. And then under exclusion lists, we're going to press the blue plus icon and we're going to call this, for example, general negative keywords. And what we want to do then is paste in the list of words or phrases that we want to add as negatives to our campaign from the very beginning, and then press save. And now we have a list of negative keywords in here that we don't want to appear for. And if we want to actually add that to our campaign then to make sure that this campaign that we're making is excluding all of these words, is that we can select the campaign that we're making, and now this negative keyword list is applied to that campaign. But now one point worth mentioning, and something you want to be very careful of when adding these negatives in advance to your campaign, is that you might notice here that all of these keywords are broad match negatives, meaning that you cannot appear for any searches that contain any of these words under any scenario. So for example here, let's say you offer roof repair services, you wouldn't be able to appear for a search that is roof repair cost because the word cost is in the search term. So you want to make sure that if you're adding broad match negatives this way, is that you're happy to not appear for any searches regardless of what other words are included. Now you might also ask is why don't we have it as phrase match instead of broad match? And the reason for that is that if there's only one word in the negative keyword, then a broad match and a phrase match negative is actually the exact same thing, because a phrase match negative means your ads won't appear for any searches that include that phrase. So anything that includes ideas or how to, for example, as phrase match would also behave in the exact same way, except for any negatives here that actually have two words. For example, if for any reason the search term was to and how in the opposite order, then your ad actually could appear, because with phrase match negatives, your ad won't appear for any searches that include those words in that exact order. And just to show you Google's resource on negative keywords and their match types, just to explain the difference between them, just because they don't work the same way as match types do for actual positive keywords. Essentially, broad match negatives mean that your ads won't appear for any searches that contains the word of the negative keyword. So for example, running shoes here, if you have it as a broad match negative, you can see here, for example, that your ads won't appear for anything that contain the words running and shoes. And phrase match negatives then is actually quite similar to broad match negatives, but your ads won't appear for anything that contains the phrase running shoes. So the only difference in this case is that in broad match, your ads wouldn't appear for shoes running because that's the two words of that phrase, but they do appear as a phrase match negative because for phrase match, it only blocks out searches where these words are in the exact same order. And lastly then, with an exact match negative, your ads can appear for absolutely any search at all apart from the exact phrase, letter for letter, word for word, running shoes. As you can see here, your ads can appear for anything else. And so that's essentially what the match types look like for negatives that you're adding to your Google Ads campaign in advance, and is why as well you just want to be careful when adding broad match negatives, is that I'd recommend doing so for the lowest intent words that under any circumstance you know you would not want to appear for. So just make sure for each of these that you add, there isn't any scenarios at all that you would actually be happy to have a phrase that includes that word. And you saw in this example that all of the negatives we added were low intent words. What you can also add as negatives as well are competitor names. So make a list of all your competitors in your area that you're also targeting and add those competitors as negatives to your campaign as well. So that way then you have a mix of low intent words and also your competitors added to your negative keyword list. And that's a solid negative keyword list to start when making your Google Ads campaign. And once you have all of those added to your campaign, then you're massively going to reduce the amount of irrelevant search terms that you appear for inside your search terms report. And then usually when you actually have to add negatives from your search terms report, it's usually going to be exact match negatives that you add directly from there. But these are examples of the keywords that you would add as negatives in advance before the campaign goes live. So hopefully this video helped and gave you some clarity on what to do about adding negatives to your campaign before launching a brand new Google Ads campaign. Now, if you do have any questions about negatives and the aspects we went through inside this video or anything else related to Google Ads as a whole, feel free to leave a comment down below. And if you do like this Google Ads related content as well, feel free to subscribe to the channel and have a look at the videos we posted so far inside this playlist on all of the steps involved in making a brand new Google Ads campaign up as far as this point. And keep an eye out as well on the videos that we'll be posting each day on the rest of the steps involved in the campaign creation process and everything else involved in actually managing the campaign once it goes live. So hopefully the video helped and we'll see you inside the next one.